And finally, the gummy fish. That's individuality for you. Individuality is discovering who you're meant to be so you can make a difference. Here's one thing I've discovered about myself. I have a very special gift. I'm kind of an expert at finding the perfect candy combinations. For instance, everyone knows that chocolate and peanut butter goes well together. But did you know that sour worms and cherry starburst together will make your head spin? But my most favorite combination is the one I'm working on right now. I start with sour candy. Oh, I love it so much. But too much sour can be a bad thing. So, to balance it out, chocolate covered raisins. They take some of the punch out of the sour. And plus, they used to be grapes, so healthy. Then, the gummy fish. Of course, these are key because they stick to your teeth, so you know you'll be tasting them for at least another hour. You see that? I used my gift of candy combining to really make a difference in my life. Now I have all these perfect little bags that I could enjoy for weeks to come. Or at least a couple of days. I'm going to eat so much candy. So much candy. I wonder if there's a better way for me to use my gift. One that won't make me sick or cost me a fortune at the dentist. You know, our story today is about a woman named Lydia. She had a very special gift too, and we're going to learn how she used it. So much candy. I'll see you soon.
The Bible. It's 66 books of history, stories, letters, and poetry that fit together to form God's one big story. The epic adventure of how He created us and loves us so much that He made a way to rescue us. As we travel through the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, we discover people who met God and found their lives changed forever. Now, for an amazing story, inspired by the book of Acts, chapter 16, verses 13 through 15.
Lydia of Thyatira was a remarkable woman. Her city was known for its craftsmen, especially those who made and sold expensive purple dye.
Take a look. I use only the finest snail shells.
Though most successful people in business were men, Lydia learned the craft of purple dye. And when she traveled to the Roman city of Philippi, she set up a business selling rare, expensive purple cloth.
Please note, we have lilac, plum, iris, lavender, and grape fabric laid out. And over here you'll find amethyst, eggplant, and orchid.
Lydia had likely been raised to believe in many false gods, but in her heart, she knew there was something more.
The Jewish people believe in just one God. What if they're right?
The city of Philippi had laws against bringing any unknown religion into the city. But Lydia would meet outside the city gates on the riverbank with a group of women who believed in the one true God.
Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. Love Him with all your strength.
Lydia and the other women had never heard of Jesus. But as they began to seek God together, God sent a vision to someone else, the Apostle Paul, who was staying in the Greek city of Troas.
Dream. It was so vivid. I saw a man standing right here begging me. He said, "Come over to Macedonia. Help us."
Immediately, Paul and his friends set sail. Within a few days, they reached land and traveled to Philippi, one of the most important cities in Macedonia.
So we just start by finding a synagogue of Jewish believers, right?
I don't think there is a synagogue here.
On the Sabbath, a day of worship, Paul and his friends went down to the river, hoping to find a place of prayer.
Shall we gather at the river?
Excuse me.
Hi there. Do you wish to join us? We're praying to the one true God.
Absolutely.
There, by the river, Paul told the story of Jesus and how anyone who chose to follow Jesus could have a relationship with God that lasts forever.
But This is amazing. This changes everything.
The Lord opened Lydia's heart to believe every word of Paul's message.
I wish to be baptized. At once.
Not only was Lydia baptized, but she immediately shared the good news with her family and everyone who lived and worked in her home. And they too were baptized. Lydia gathered Paul and his friends.
Do you consider me a believer in the Lord? If you do, come and stay at my house.
We would be honored.
As a successful businesswoman, Lydia's house was likely large and beautiful.
We must meet here from now on.
Lydia did not hesitate to give everything she had to the believers in the brand new church. And when Paul and Silas were later thrown in prison and then released, they immediately returned to Lydia's home to rest and prepare before they left the city.
You must be brave.
Of course we will. Don't forget to write.
Later, Paul did write a letter to Lydia and others in the church of Philippi, and he remembered his time spent in Lydia's home and the church there with great joy.
I thank my God every time I remember you. In all my prayers for all of you, I always pray with joy. I'm happy because you have joined me in spreading the good news. God began a good work in you, and I am sure that he will carry it on until it is completed.
In everything she did, Lydia continued to use her gifts to help others.
Okay, so everyone has at least one gift, right? Something they can do really well. And it doesn't have to be something flashy, like being an amazing singer. You could be good at baking, swimming, finding things that are lost, talking very, 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 very fast, making people laugh, identifying different species of birds. It's a blue-throated macaw. Lydia's gift was that she was good at business. She knew how to make money by selling things that people wanted. She sold purple cloth. I wonder if she sold a coat like this. Probably not. Whether you know it or not, you have a gift. You may even have more than one. But what your gifts are isn't as important as how you use them. Lydia used the money she made in her business to provide a place to stay for the Apostle Paul and his friends. She used her gifts to help others. And Jesus was constantly teaching people, healing people, and loving people. He used his gifts to help others too. That's what we should do. When we're good at something, we shouldn't just use it to help ourselves or to make ourselves look good. God gave us our gifts, and we should share them with other people. That's the one thing to remember today. Use your gifts to help others. So I think I'm gonna share these bags of candy instead of keeping them all to myself. And not only that, I bet I can use my gift to help other people find their favorite candy combinations. I could go into business like Lydia. Whew. This idea is making my head spin. I'll see you next time. Now, what candy goes well with Chica Sticks?
I want to be rich. I want to be cool.
I want to be pretty.
I want to be successful.
I want to be cool. I want to be powerful.
I want to be rich.
I want to be popular.
I want to be clever.
I want to be successful.
I want to be pure.
I want to be heartbroken.
I want to be merciful.
I want to be humble.
I want to be hungry.
I want to be gentle.
I want to be a peacemaker.
I want to be persecuted.
Just be.
have you ever noticed in TV and in movies that when you see a powerful person, they're either like really, really good or they're really, really bad? There's rarely ever anybody in the middle. I mean, the most interesting people, you know this, are the people that are super awesome or they are terrible leaders. They're superheroes or they're super villains. And in the series, we've been talking about the idea of being powerful and specifically how we all have powerful people in our lives, people in positions of leadership, people in positions of authority, and sometimes, just like in the movies, those leaders are awesome. Sometimes they're inspiring and helpful and encouraging. They're all the good stuff. You know them. It's your favorite teacher. And even if you're not always happy with what they tell you to do, most of the time we follow what they say because we trust them. We like them. We respect them. But you know this. At the same time, we all know what it feels like to have a real life example of a person in power or a person with authority who, well, should not be a powerful person. And last week we talked about how Jesus is the best example of how to use power. That he introduced this idea of an upside down kingdom, a way of thinking about the world that is upside down or different than the way that everyone else thinks about it, especially when it comes to power and authority. But that leaves us with a question, doesn't it? What about when powerful people don't exactly lead like Jesus would? I mean, what do you do when you have a leader or a boss or a teacher or a coach who is lazy? What do you do when they're disrespectful or when they discriminate? What do you do when they're just wrong? What do you do when the person who has the power doesn't deserve the power that they have? I mean, what about the teacher who could not care less about their actual students and only cares about the grades? They love science, but they hate sophomores. What about the boss at your after-school job? The one who makes decisions that you don't agree with or treats the other employees really unfairly? Or what about, I mean, this is personal, what about the adults in your life who talk about being a Christian and they also talk bad about everybody else? What then? I mean, are we just required to be good followers of bad leaders? And is that even what God really wants? Like, does God really want me to just blindly follow somebody who isn't kind, isn't selfless, isn't respectable, and doesn't deserve the power they have just because they have the power? Or is it okay to ignore them? Or in my case, is it okay to make fun of them? Especially if they're really funny? Like, if the person is a bad leader, do I have to be a good follower? Those are really good questions. And I bet all of us have asked them at some point or another. I mean, dealing with people in authority who don't exactly live up to their responsibility, that never goes away, by the way. Even as an adult, that never goes away. The truth is, we will always have powerful people in our lives, people who have more power or authority than we do. And although this is complicated, the good news is that God has given us a starting point for how to respond to a powerful person, no matter how they're using their power. In ancient Israel, there was a powerful king named David. But long before he was king, David had a lot of experience with powerful people. I mean, maybe you heard this story. As a kid, David's dad basically ignored him, overlooked him, and there was this like major opportunity for his family, and David's dad just completely left him out of it. And as a teenager, David faced off with a giant named Goliath who had been bullying the Israelite people for a long time. And not many years after that, David had to decide how to deal with the most powerful person in the country. At the time, it was the king. Let me give you a little bit of background. God chose David to be the next king of Israel. There was a slight problem. Israel already had a king, and the king's name was Saul. And Saul, he wasn't exactly ready to leave. So King Saul decided he needed to take action. I mean, this kid, David, was a threat, so he decided to kill him. And what do you do when an evil king is coming to kill you? David did exactly what any of us would have done. He ran for his life. For years, David literally was on the run, and that's where we pick up the story. After Saul returned from fighting the Philistines, he was told that David had gone into the wilderness of the En-Gedi. So Saul chose 3,000 elite troops from all Israel and went to search for David and his men near the rocks of the wild goats. At the place where the road passes some sheepfolds, Saul went into a cave to relieve himself, but as it happened, David and his men were hiding farther back in that very cave. Okay, in case you're wondering if you heard that right, you did. King Saul takes 3,000 troops to go hunt down David, All because Saul was the type of leader who gets a little jealous when somebody else has success. He was the literal worst. Then, on the way to go kill David, Saul walks into a cave to take a bathroom break. And David and his guys are hiding in that exact cave just a little further back, and he doesn't see them. Now they're tucked into the back of a cave, and Saul is all alone. Now is your opportunity, David's men whispered to him. Today the Lord is telling you, I will certainly put your enemy into your power to do with as you wish. So here was David's chance. Years of being hunted down finally came down to this moment. Saul had been a terrible authority figure in David's life, and now David had the chance to do something about it. One slash of the sword and David's problems are over forever. His own men with him were begging him to do it, but look at what he decided to do instead. So David crept forward and cut off a piece of the hem of Saul's robe. The hem of his robe. That's a weird flex. All of David's backup guys had to be confused. I mean, this was supposed to be the day when David was finally gonna get revenge. He was gonna stop hiding. He was gonna become the king. He was gonna kill Saul. But that's not what happened at all. In fact, Saul left the cave without ever knowing David was there. And while David could have stayed hidden in the cave, he actually runs out and sees Saul and gets his attention and shows him the piece of cloth in his hand, the piece of cloth that he had cut off from Saul's robe. And at that moment, Saul knew that David had the chance to kill him and didn't. And what David did next explained it all. He says, "May the Lord judge between us. Perhaps the Lord will punish you for what you are trying to do to me, but I will never harm you. As the old proverb says, from evil people come evil deeds. So you can be sure I will never harm you. Who is the king of Israel trying to catch anyway? Should he spend his time chasing one who is as worthless as a dead dog or a single flea? May the Lord therefore judge which of us is right and punish the guilty one. He is my advocate and he will rescue me from your power." Now listen, David could have taken down Saul right then and there. And if we're being honest, he had a good reason to do it. Saul deserved it. But what David realized is that even though Saul had all this power and all this authority, David still had the power to decide what role he was going to play in the story. Here's what I mean. See, David quoted this saying that he had heard growing up: "From evil people come evil deeds," meaning evil people do evil stuff. And he's basically saying, if I do this, if I take Saul's life, I am going to become one of those evil people. If I do this, I am no better than Saul. And I'm not going to be one of those people. King Saul, you may be like that, but not me. Saul may have been a killer, but in that moment, David decided, I'm not going to be like him. Saul may have been disrespectful, but David would never stoop to his level. Saul may have been wrong and deserving of disrespect, but David knew that in honoring Saul, even when he didn't deserve it, David was exercising his own power, and ultimately, he was honoring God. I mean, talk about an upside down way to use your power. David could have used his strategic position to his advantage to kill Saul in that cave, but in God's upside down kingdom, David knew that the best way to use his power was for good. In fact, one way to say it is this: in the upside down kingdom, honor is greater than power. And we have the same opportunity. We can choose to be honorable no matter who is leading us. Their actions, no matter who they is, don't have to determine our actions. I mean, does that mean you always obey? You always comply? You just do whatever they say without thinking? No, of course not. David ran for his life. If he had obeyed, he would have died. He did decide, however, that no amount of Saul being evil could force David to become evil as well. It wasn't worth it. He wouldn't become like the person he was running from. Now, hopefully you'll never find yourself in that situation, but let's be honest, you may find yourself in other situations where the person with the power isn't acting like they should. I mean, there may be times when ideally the right thing to do would be to respectfully and humbly say no to a powerful person in your life because they're leading you against what is right or what is wise. And listen, I mean, let's just be brutally honest for a second. In the world today, there is so much injustice, and we're not talking about honoring injustice. We're talking about choosing to be an honorable person. What does it look like to be honorable in a racist or abusive or an unfair system that's used to oppress people? Well, it looks like disrupting those systems. Sometimes being honorable looks like calling out what is wrong. Maybe it looks like talking to your principal if a teacher is discriminating against your classmates, or maybe you need to respectfully disagree when an adult says something rude or hurtful about other people. If any leader is hurting you, or if a leader is asking you to hurt yourself or to hurt other people, listen, this is an authority you shouldn't have to listen to. We all know that, but figuring out how to not listen to an authority is really challenging. So don't ever hesitate to seek out another trusted adult to help you think through this and plan for how you'll respond when you face those moments. Because it is possible that unless your life or your safety is on the line, there will be times in life where you have to be honorable to an authority, but you can't obey. But let's be honest, that's not every time, right? Those are the exceptions. Most of the time, your teachers, your coaches, your parents, they're not asking you to do something illegal or immoral. There will be times when their actions aren't great, when you're frustrated, when they're just annoying, when you feel like they could be doing a better job, or when they disappoint you. And in those moments, the most important thing you can do is decide who you want to be in that response, not decide whether or not they deserve the power that they have. In other words, you can choose to be honorable no matter who is powerful. The truth is, we all know this is easier said than done. So to wrap up our time together, I want to talk about some really practical ways to be honorable no matter who's powerful. First, think about what you say and how you say it. If you're talking to a teacher or a parent or a step-parent, if you're talking to one of your coaches, you can choose to speak in a way that communicates respect. And if you have to argue or disagree with your stepmom, you can argue in a way that's calm and uses words to find solutions, not uses words to make the other person look stupid. Put simply, your words are your choice, and you can choose to honor someone with your words, even if you don't agree with that person in the moment. Also, remember this. Remember that leaders are human too. It's easy to see powerful people as not people. It's easy to see coaches or parents or teachers as if they're some kind of superhero who's never gonna make mistakes, but you know that's not true. There are gonna be times they make mistakes. There are gonna be times when a teacher messes up, or when your boss at your after school job, they're gonna get it wrong from time to time. And in those moments, you can respond honorably by treating them the way that you would wanna be treated if you were in the same situation. And third, and this is so hard, I know, the third thing you can do is speak up. Like I said before, sometimes the best way to be honorable is to speak up when something is not safe, when you're being hurt, or when what's being asked of you is just not right or not healthy. Knowing when to speak up or finding the right words is important. It's also really tricky. And that's why I want everyone here to have a small group leader and to have other adults in your life who care about you, who want what's best for you, and who can guide you in situations that are really tough like this. And if you ever find yourself in a situation where you need to speak up to a powerful person, or you think you might need to speak up to a powerful person, I want you to make a plan for what that conversation looks like. I want you to talk with your family or talk with your small group leader about what that plan is and what you're gonna say. Those are the kinds of decisions you shouldn't ever have to figure out alone. And the thing to remember in all of this is God is inviting us to participate in an upside down kingdom, in a totally different way of seeing power. He's inviting us to participate in a way of life where honor is greater than power. And that means you can be honorable, no matter who is powerful. That can be difficult, but it's what Jesus modeled, and it's what he invites us to be a part of. And I promise, it's the best way to see and treat power when it comes to making decisions now that will help you grow into the best possible version of yourself. You can start living in that upside down kingdom kind of way today. Now listen, I know this whole conversation about people who are leaders or people who are in power, it's just complicated because so many of us, we have different experiences with people in power, and almost every one of our experiences is unique. And I mean, for instance, even though David was honorable in this story that I shared today, he did not always get it right in every situation. In fact, I would encourage you, go back and read more of his wild story when you get a chance. But no matter your situation, I hope that this week you talk with your small group and you talk with your leader about the specific authorities in your life and how to handle them. Because the truth is, you'll always have powerful people in your life. Some will be great and some will not. But you can decide for yourself who you're going to be and how you're going to respond. No matter who's in charge, you can choose to be honorable. That's powerful.